Hey guys, Team Shenanigans here. This is Jeannie, and I am here with Matthew. He has a deck profile for you guys of not Aqua Force.
What?
But tell us about your deck.
This isn't Aqua Force?
No, I don't think that's Aqua Force.
They look like tear dragons to me. Oh wait, no, this is Narukami. Okay.
Yeah, that's
sorry, I got
some
confused.
Narukami stuff going on there.
I got confused.
Yeah.
So this is my Eradicator deck. It's what I've been playing lately. You can see here I've got the bosses laid out. I'll get to them in a minute, but I kind of wanted to have them laid out here so that I can explain how the rest of the cards in the deck are kind of designed to work around these guys. So I'll start off basic with my trigger lineup. I've got 8 crit, 4 draw, 4 heal. Super basic. The draws are just to get you some extra power in the hand. The heals and the crits are pretty self-explanatory. This deck loves to hit hard and hit as hard as it can. So those crits really put in some work. Alright, now to get to the main part of the deck. My starter here is Ambush Dragon Eradicator Linchu. I've tried it with the deck with a couple of different starters, and I decided on Linchu after a lot of testing. He adds a lot to the deck. Whereas, you know, the Vowing starter can give 3,000 and a crit. You know, it's not really doing a lot, considering that 3,000 and a crit is coming after the limit break, and the fact that, as it was pointed out to me after using it for a while, it is mandatory. So that decreased its utility quite a bit. So I really love Linchu. Having a starter that can deny your opponent the use of their starter is fantastic. People get really mad when you retire their starters.
Amen to that.
So for my grade 1 lineup, start off. This is 4 perfect guards. That's Eradicator, Wyvern Guard, Gould, as they say in the show, I think. I don't know. I call him Gold. He's just in there because perfect guards are great. Don't let anyone tell you differently. Next up, 4 copies of Eradicator Demolition Dragon. He's just your standard sub-clan 7 to 10k grade 1. There's not really a lot of explaining. He's great for early rushing or late game if you don't draw into a lot of grade 2s or 3s and you still need someone that can hit with a nice booster behind him. Demolition Dragon's your man. Next up, 4 copies of Steel-Blooded Eradicator Shuki. This card is really in the deck with this guy in mind over here. His ability is that when your opponent's rear guard is put into the drop zone due to one of your card's effects, if you have an Eradicator Vanguard, sorry, for every one of those cards that you retired, he gains 3,000 power. That means that with the Break Ride, he's a 10k booster. With this Limit Break, he's a 13k booster. This card is just fantastic all around. Moving on to the next, grade 1. I run 2 copies of Eradicator of Fire Kokaiji. He's just nice because it's really simple to get his effect off. If you boost the Narukami Vanguard and your opponent has 3 or more damage, he becomes a 10k booster, which is amazing. It's great to have behind your Vanguard, even if you're sitting on Vowing Saber Dragon and you're locking it, because as soon as you run out of Counterblast for that limit break, you're still sitting on a 21 or 23k Vanguard column, which is just fantastic. And if you have one of these other guys on the field, you're making 21k columns, which is just ridiculous. Or 23 if you're on the Break Ride. Moving on to the grade 2s, sorry, I've been playing some buddy fight lately. The grade 2s, Eradicator Spark Rain Dragon, 4 copies. He's your standard sub-clan 9 to 12k beater. He's just great for rushing your opponent or making good columns against cross rides, which are becoming pretty nasty with reverse units. Here we've got 4 copies of Double Gun Eradicator Hakusho. It is just your 9k grade 2 version of Shuki that I showed you a minute ago. Every time you retire one of your opponent's rear guards, so long as your Vanguard has an Eradicator in its name, which it should in this deck, all the cards are Eradicators, Hakusho over here gains 3,000 power. So 1 retire from the Break Ride, that's a 12k attacker. 2 retires from this guy, that makes Shuki a 15k by itself, which if it's boosted by Hakusho, sorry, Shuki behind a Hakusho with Vowing Saber's Limit Break is a 28k column, which is just murder against cross rides. For the last grade 2, I have 3 copies of Rochishin. This card is amazing, and I wish it was a 9k, but I understand why it's not. Unfortunately, since it is only 8k, I've bumped it down to 3 in the deck, because I really, really hate writing this thing. But on rear guard, he just puts in so much work. He's the same thing as Shuki and Hakusho, except instead of gaining 3,000 power, he gains 5. This guy gains an extra stage of power every time you retire one of your opponent's cards. It's absolutely brutal, and I love it. This guy's one of my favorite cards in the deck, plus his art is amazing. So good.
Hey, sexy. I'm kidding.
I assume she's talking to me. What? Alright, and now what you've been seeing here in the background this whole time, we'll get to the size 3s. Starting off, we have 3 copies of the Break Ride, Eradicator Vowing Sword Dragon. When Narukami rides on top of it, it gets 10,000 power, and you can choose one of your opponent's rear guards in the front row and retire it. Absolutely great. The power boost is fantastic, and ridding your opponent of one of their intercepts is just great. I love it. Plus it fuels the skills like Rochishin, Shuki, and Hakusho, giving your field an extra ridiculous power boost if you've got multiples of those on the field. I also have 3 copies of Vowing Sword's Cross Ride here, Eradicator Vowing Saber Dragon Reverse. When Vowing Sword is in the soul, he gains a permanent 2,000, making him a 13k base, which is just great. And his Limit Break skill lets you counterblast 2 Eradicators and choose... No, just counterblast 2. It's not a subclan specific counterblast. Counterblast 2 and lock 2 Eradicators. Your opponent chooses 2 of their rear guards, retires them. This guy gets 10,000 power. Again, he's absolutely ridiculous with cards like Rochishin, Hakusho, and Shuki, especially the grade 2s. Say, you know, you've got this column over here. Okay, you can lock the Vanguard booster because he's gaining the 10,000 power, but what if you're locking the booster behind another one of your columns? You might have a really weak column over there. Boom! Rochishin. He's an 18k, unboosted. This card's ridiculous. It's so good.
So we have heard.
Something I'm running in the deck, I've seen it posted elsewhere before. This isn't my original idea, although I haven't seen it too many places. I've decided to put 2 Eradicator Dragonic Descendant into the deck. The idea behind this is that if your games go too long, you do run out of counterblasts. After a couple turns of using this guy, he's done. And while he may be great, you don't ever want to be reduced to playing what's essentially a vanilla deck. And that's what everything becomes once you run out of counterblasts for Vowing Saber. Dragonic Descendant has a much cheaper cost for his Limit Break, so if you healed after you use Linshu, now you're at 5 damage, you've got 1 open counterblast. Riding Descendant late game means that you've got another turn that you're able to do something. And if you're at 5 damage, your opponent should be pretty high up there, especially if you've gone so long as to Limit Break twice. Both of you should be at 5 damage. This guy becomes absolutely deadly in that scenario, because now your opponent is having to block 4 attacks. And that means 4 twin drives. So if you're lucky, like I get a lot of those twin drives are going to be triggers, meaning that your rearguard columns are gaining that power back from the triggers he's hitting that they would have been gaining from using Vowing Saber's skills. Plus, again, with the 10k booster behind him, he becomes absolutely ridiculous. Your opponent's having to block some crazy stuff. So, that's kind of the idea behind the whole deck. I don't know that there's really anything else to explain. So, Jeannie, do you want to take us out, or do you want me to do it?
Alright guys, I'm going to take us out. This has been Matthew from Team Shenanigans with his not Aquaforce, but Eradicator deck profile.
It's Aquaforce, I swear.
Sure, babe. Sure. If you liked his deck profile, be sure to like this video, comment on it with your opinions, although they're probably wrong.
What?
I'm kidding.
No, but really.
And subscribe if you want to see more shenanigans just like this. Alright, say goodbye.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.